welcome back to another mini episode of Chaotic Good Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Kate.
And I'm your co-host, Nate. Today we're going to be reviewing a little bit of, I wouldn't say the movie itself is controversial, but the subject matter.
I would agree with that. Today we're going to be reviewing the documentary The Crash that came out on Netflix recently. And just kind of like a short synopsis. The documentary covers an incident that happened in 2022
Yep, 2022.
involving a car accident.
Yep, with three teenagers, one girl driving and then two male passengers. And I say
Yeah.
girl because she was 17, so she's underage.
Yeah. She was like 16, I believe, when it happened. 17
17.
when she was charged.
17 when she was okay.
And then she was tried as an adult because of her age.
Yeah.
But yeah, the incident involved Mackenzie Shirilla from, I think they were in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yep, in a smaller town, smaller community.
yeah, real small town. Um, and they definitely seemed like the party kids for sure.
Yeah. There was no seam for me. I was like, oh yeah, they definitely those ones.
Yeah.
She also gave
And
me Mean Girl vibes, by the way.
oh my God. Okay. So the crash happened in the way that, like, so they went to a friend's house for a sleepover and,
Or
just
celebrating graduation.
yeah, this was like a post-graduation kind of thing. They
Yeah.
get to the house at like midnight, 1 o'clock-ish. They stay there,
Oh,
fall
what
asleep
what
around
was it?
3 a.m., and then they leave
Wake up and leave
around like 5,
4:30.
5:30 in the morning, per the location on one of the victims' phones. And they're driving around their small town, and I think they only ended up getting a few blocks away. Um, she rounds a corner pretty carefully, I would say. She had her turn signal on. She was going at a reasonable speed. And from that corner, along this kind of S-curve road in the middle of town, she
Yeah,
goes
it had a lot of
from
bendies.
yeah, from like 0, and I think at the point of impact of the crash, she was going 102 miles per hour.
What 100, 100.
Just 100? Okay.
Yep. Well, just yeah.
And just
No,
100. Yeah.
it was maintaining 100% pedal push the entirety
Yeah.
of the strip. Well, the first I can't say the whole strip. Whatever was recorded, which I think was the last 5 seconds.
Yeah, so from the black box from the car, she had pushed the pedal down to 100%. There was no braking involved whatsoever.
0%
Um,
braking, and there was a fight over. It kept flashing from neutral to drive again. They're
yeah.
shifting up.
So she was driving, she had her boyfriend in the passenger seat, and they made it sound like the second passenger was just kind of like hovering in between the driver and the passenger. He wasn't actually seated in the back.
The impression that I got was that at a certain point during that ride, what I think was going on is he was trying to help fight to regain control of the car so that they wouldn't crash. Because to me, it sounded like it was something done on purpose, and
Yeah.
it looked like that. One of them was trying to fight over the shifter, and the other was trying to fight over the steering wheel.
Yeah,
That's the impression
because
that I got.
I think the black box again had shown that the steering wheel had gone like a little to the left, a little bit to
Mhm.
the right, and then like
And then back
severely to the right.
Yep.
And then the car eventually ended up crashing through a sign for this like industrial building and then eventually into the side of this brick industrial building at full speed impact.
Yep.
And both of
The
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 passengers unfortunately died.
Yep.
And
They
McKenna
were listed
came
dead
out.
on arrival, DOA.
Yeah. And she had several broken bones and I think a punctured lung and a
Um,
kidney.
both carotid arteries, her both arteries in the neck were also severely injured,
Yeah.
other spinal injuries, uh, other organ injuries as well,
Yeah,
kidney,
and I
liver.
believe she was the only one with a seatbelt on as well. Yeah, that definitely played a factor into it, and kinda leading back into the whole they were party kids thing is, so her boyfriend was they alluded that he was a dealer and that he did fairly well for himself dealing, marijuana and, uh,
Mushrooms,
mushrooms.
psilocybin
Um,
mushroom.
yeah, and so because of that, they did a talk screen on Mackenzie to see if drugs were a factor in the crash, to see, if
Mhm.
that had anything to do with her erratic driving, and come to find out that the only thing in her system was THC.
And, they have tons of evidence showing that she is regularly in control of her vehicle while smoking what I would say is some of the fattest blunts I've ever seen in my life. I'm just saying that's like a $50 joint that she'd be running around smoking for herself, like, who even does that?
But, like, it looks like she could afford it because her boyfriend is buying her Coach and Gucci and Louis
Yeah,
Vuitton stuff.
yep, Michael
And,
Kors and Kate
based
Spade.
on her TikTok history is where they get a lot of this other evidence of kind of Mackenzie's character, which I
That
think
and interviews with, fellow students.
yes. Okay, so getting into, like, how they formatted the documentary, I was a little disappointed that they didn't include more one-on-one interviews with the other students from the schools that they went to, because I feel like we would have gotten a better image of her character, Dominic's character, Davion's character from the students rather than the parents and the families.
I it was on and as far as the parents go, it was only the parents of the students that were affected in this, the 3 students that were in the crash. I didn't
Mhm.
think they interviewed any other parents.
Yeah. I had recently found out, like, after watching the documentary that because, like, they had shown one of the victims, his father and his older sister, and then the other victim, it was his father and his younger sister,
Mhm.
and then for Mackenzie, it was just her parents. I had no idea that she had siblings per the documentary. I had to go and find that out on TikTok. And then to find out that a lot of people from her school were talking about the dynamic between her and her younger sister, and I think they had a brother too, and her parents. And it was kind of alluded to by Davion's dad in the documentary that Mackenzie's parents should probably be looked at a little more closely on how they parented or lack thereof because
Yeah.
of Mackenzie's behaviors in the past that led up to this event. Because in the documentary, Mackenzie's dad was stating, yeah, we knew she was a stoner. I have no problem with her smoking marijuana as long as it's not harder, more illicit drugs. And I don't know if he would classify mushrooms as like a harder drug himself. Um,
Um, they really gave off kind of bad vibes to me because, "Oh, yeah, we let our,
yeah.
16-year-old daughter move in with a 20-year-old guy." And it's like, "You guys really aren't doing your jobs as parents, are you?"
No. And it was really interesting to me looking at the video from like, the sentencing hearing for Mackenzie's mom, and her statement to the judge and
Oh,
saying,
that was pretty bad.
"That was weird. That was really weird," because she's like, "This is my daughter's life that you're affecting. This is, like, her whole future." And the judge was like, "And you're saying that these other parents haven't lost anything and their children haven't lost anything? Like, their children
Oof.
are dead. Do their lives mean nothing?" And she's like, "No, no, no, that's not what I'm saying at all." But it's like, it seems selfish,
It was
what
very selfish, as she did get cut off before she finished her
as
her
she
her
should have. That judge did a pretty good
whatever
job, I
speech.
would say. But, like, as a mother if I was Mackenzie's mom, I mean, granted, I don't think that I would have allowed a lot of the behaviors that they allowed Mackenzie to get away with, especially moving in with a boyfriend who is 3 years older than her,
while you're in high school.
while she was in high school, on top of the amount of drugs that she was doing. And
And how often did it sound like they were going out to parties till like sunup on a regular
yeah,
basis? And oh yeah, it's okay, it's okay. No, none of that is okay. That is not
no,
something a developing brain should be doing. The amount of damage that that can do long term, as far as the amount of alcohol, the amount of other substances, and the effects on a still growing, developing, maturing brain. It can stunt so many things. And
yeah.
then add that into all of the other bad behaviors that they were okay with. She is not being set up to have any kind of real success in her life at all.
Yeah. So a couple other things about the parents. One, that during the documentary, the shirt that the dad was wearing was from a sponsor, from a YouTube sponsor that had set up kind of like a bail fund in hopes that after they appealed Mackenzie's case, that this would be, the amount of damages
Cool.
that they owed to the other families. So he was promoting something while making a documentary. And then also, something they featured in the documentary was that after Mackenzie was released from the hospital, but before she was charged, she was getting Instagram messages and comments from fashion brands saying, "Hey, we like your style. We'd like to work with you." Yada yada. And it was not only Mackenzie, but Mackenzie's mom that was saying, "Oh my God, what a great opportunity. We'd love to work with you." After her daughter had just killed two people in a car accident. That
Yeah.
doesn't seem like someone who is very socially conscious to me.
I would agree. And then other behaviors that she would show, or that she was showing, after she was out of the hospital too. Mackenzie herself seemed off by a lot.
Yeah. The prosecution was showing videos of her TikToks of, like, her going to Halloween parties and getting dressed up, and this was only 3 months after she had lost her, quote, unquote, "love of her life."
Well, and it wasn't just
And
getting dressed up. She was going out to big parties to,
mhm,
drink and smoke, and just keep doing the same things, the same bad behaviors, just repeating it all over and over and over again. And
mhm,
as parents, why would you be okay with your teenage, any child that just did this, going out and continuing to act like that immediately after? I mean, first of all, when you're recovering from stuffs like that, you're also probably on a lot of, pain medications, or muscle relaxers, or who knows what else,
mhm,
blood thinners, or stuff to help, ease things on your organs while you heal.
mhm.
That's not letting your body heal,
Yeah,
first of all.
abs yeah.
I,
So, there's definitely a
so
lapse
many.
in judgment.
A, it sounds like an entire childhood worth of lapse of judgment.
Right? And also, see, I loved watching the prosecutor in this movie because he seemed to actually do his job, know what
Hmm.
he was doing, and did it
Hmm.
very well. And some of the other stuff that he had found was an incident that had happened. I think it was like 6 months or a year prior to the crash, where I think it
It
was
was
she was driving and Dominic was texting his
it
mom.
was it was months before. It wasn't a year before. It was months
Okay.
before.
Okay. And Dominic was texting his mom saying, Mackenzie's going off the rails again. She's saying, if I can't have you, nobody can have you. And she started driving really erratically again, very recklessly. And that's when the mom had called like a family friend to come and get Dominic to save him because
Mhm.
Mackenzie was acting so recklessly that she could have killed him at that point.
Well,
Uh,
and was sounded like was threatening to do just that, to crash the car and kill them both if she couldn't stay in a relationship with him.
yeah, and then there were other videos that they had taken from Dominic's cell phone, and it was like he had one phone recording him calling his mom, or no, he was recording being on the phone with Mackenzie,
Mhm.
and then he sent it to his mom, and Mackenzie was locked out of the apartment, and she was banging on the door saying, "Let me in," and he's like, "No, not until you calm down. I want you to leave." She said, "Fine, I'm gonna break in. I'm gonna break in. I'm gonna break in. I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing." And then add on top of that, the other reports that weren't included in the documentary that are coming in from these other students saying she was a mean girl. She acted aggressively, not towards just students, but towards teachers. And then
Well,
the
they even
teachers.
had a thing in there, in the documentary about her being kicked out of one class after another because of her
Mhm.
horrible attitude to teachers and students alike.
And that she got suspended, like, a
Mhm.
couple days before the last day of school.
Yep,
So,
because
1, I
she
think
was
it's kind of a
treating
miracle
people
she even
horribly.
graduated. Um,
It had to have been influence from the parents, that kinda convinced them to let her at least get the diploma.
yeah, it had to
That's the
have.
only thing I can guess.
It had to have. But yeah, and the fact that they just kind of blew it off. Like, the mom was like, "Yeah, she had a mouth on her. Big deal." I was like,
She
"No,"
didn't want them
because
just talk back to people and give, like, snappy comebacks and walk away, like,
yeah,
she
and then to
wasn't the
hear that her younger sister
person.
is, like, so Mackenzie was noticeably very thin and had a very petite build, and then her
Yeah,
sister in other family photos who had, like, a very normal, healthy body type
average build, yeah.
was deemed the fat child and was hiding food and snack wrappers and stuff under her bed, and it was rumored that, her parents treated her sister as, like, the bad kid, whereas Mackenzie was, like, the favorite child, the golden child.
Mhm.
It's just it's kind of adding up to, like, okay, this was very poor parenting that was going on that led to this crash on top of drugs that were involved, on top of, I don't know, just yeah.
Mackenzie just
So,
having or just being a selfish, erratic person.
l
I gotta say that, despite the parenting, I think she would have been kind of a meaner person, anyways, just not, getting away with as much, but, having witnessed people around me that have had similar kind of, dispositions, eventually they kinda lean into it regardless.
yeah, I would agree with that. I also have a tendency to think that there was some sort of personality disorder that was in factor too
Oh,
that went
I could agree
undiagnosed.
with that.
Just because of the impulsivity of her actions and the
Yeah.
other erratic behaviors, the escapism kind of with
The
the drugs and
snapping
the
so
partying.
quick as well, for going from,
Yeah.
like, 0 to super pissed off in no time at all.
0 to 100 in half a mile. Like, what the hell? And it's so unfortunate that other people had to be involved in this because,
And the
like,
other friend was, a roommate and a friend of Dominic's, I believe,
yeah, he was
or
just a
they were
friend. He was
just
just getting a ride home.
yeah,
And he had a pretty big future ahead of him, and, like, they had talked about, his knee injury that put him out of football, which
yeah.
was his world to him, so I can understand deviating from that and going into more of the party crowd and the drugs and stuff to kinda cope with that loss and that grief. It shouldn't have ended the way that it did, and I'm grateful that the parents are turning it around into something good that can benefit other people. That whole
Yeah,
scholarship fund is
turning that in
beautiful, beautiful thing to remember their son by.
yeah,
Um,
and the fact that it wasn't just, like, a one-time deal, but they're, like, carrying it on and doing it with so many other students and trying to blow it up into this whole thing.
yeah,
It's
Yeah,
it's a
it's
beautiful way
amazing.
to remember somebody, I think.
Yeah, and his sister, the way that she had responded to Mackenzie and her family's apology, I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, I
That seems
totally get
pretty
that." Like,
yeah, that seems
that
pretty
apology was so fake. And
It
then
it wasn't even like, "I'm sorry for what happened. I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that our action or inaction caused this or her action caused that." It was, "I'm sorry you feel bad because of this."
which isn't an actual apology.
No, shirking all responsibility from anybody.
Yeah, and her parents kinda modeled that as well during the hearings.
It To me, it looks like she acts very similarly to them, but with severe rage problems.
Yeah, which can come into play when a child is neglected to a certain extent, which it kinda looks like that happened. Um, and
Yeah.
then towards the end, when the mom was talking about the appeal that they were trying to push through, which eventually got denied, was that, it wasn't Mackenzie doing the erratic driving, or it wasn't like the instance before the crash where Dominic had called his mom and was like, "Mackenzie's acting crazy. She's gonna crash the car. Come and help me." She was like going through text messages saying Mackenzie was also texting Dominic's mom saying that Dominic was trying to pull on the steering wheel to intentionally crash the car. It's like, well, sweetie, if you're driving that fast and you're threatening to kill both yourself and your partner, of course, yeah, he's probably
He's
gonna pull on the steering wheel to try
he's
and
gonna
stop.
try and save his own life at that point.
Yeah.
Probably
S
yours too.
yeah, so it's just it's so fishy. The whole
Yeah,
thing is just so fishy to me.
honestly, that family feels really, really sleazy, manipulative, really self-centered. I can't say personally, that I know anything, but the feeling that I just get really bad vibes off of them. Really bad vibes.
Yeah.
Nothing adds up to good from what I have seen.
Yeah, none of it, and then her interviews from prison were just like, "Okay, yeah, have your lawyer there," because, plausible deniability, I guess, but then she okay, and then blaming it on POTS.
See,
When
if you would go limp, I don't know if going limp you would necessarily be pushing hard on the gas, but
Mhm,
also if you were, you wouldn't be handling those curves or you wouldn't be, steering so accurately at those speeds at all.
mhm,
Uh, there there's no way. And you can't
um,
argue that if there was, like, a fight for the control over the car, with the wheel and the putting it into
yeah,
neutral and thing, if there wasn't, like, someone awake at the wheel trying to fight against it, wouldn't have stayed in neutral?
right?
Wouldn't they have been able to steer away from that so they wouldn't have hit things?
Right, and even so, like, with Davion being kind of in the middle, I feel like if he had stretched his leg over Mackenzie, he probably would have been able to reach the brake.
Yeah, but that's not a thing you can do if they're awake, swinging at you and fighting with you to try and do what they were doing.
Yeah,
Heck,
yeah,
uh, the emergency brake probably even could have got hit, engaged, um,
so
if he had passed out.
right, well, and with that model of car, where is the e-brake? Is it a handbrake or is it a foot pedal?
That's a good point. I'm not entirely sure because I do know certain sedans like that still have the handle beside
Mhm,
the center console.
mhm,
I don't
mhm.
know on that specific model, but if it was, it would just push the button and pull up.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit more understandable for them to do unless it was a pedal, and that would have been harder to reach because it's on the
Oh, that
left
would have
side of the
been
driver.
yeah, that would have been very difficult too then. Um, but being at least one of them in the car being a car guy, even one of the interviews saying, they go and help fix up trucks and stuff with one of their old buddies. They would have been able to know the car model enough to, to get it to a stop in a way that wouldn't have killed them all.
Yeah. There were several things that could have happened, and that kinda goes back into Dominic and Davion were probably overexhausted from getting only a couple of hours of sleep. They also probably had marijuana in their systems on top of maybe psilocybin as well.
And alcohol
Um
as well.
and alcohol. The other thing that made it really interesting to me was like, okay, so first of all, there was no actual POTS diagnosis. There were no medical records of her having that diagnosis. That was just something her mom kind of pulled out of her ass and was like, well, she's been known to faint and has this issue going on.
Well,
But
I think she's been known to faint because she wasn't eating enough.
probably, and if you get high enough and you're not hydrated and you're not eating, then yeah, you're gonna pass out at random times. Another
That seemed like
thing,
she was smoking 24/7.
which she probably was that somebody on Reddit had pointed out that Mackenzie had actually taken that route several times before they actually, like, crashed. So, like, she had driven the Life 360 app that they were using to track, Davion and Dominic's
Mhm.
and Mackenzie's phones, she had taken that route and driven it several times before she eventually turned that last corner and then accelerated. So that tells
She
me
was
that they were
doing
probably
circles?
she was doing circles.
Is that that's what you're saying, as she was doing circles in that area that night? Or
Um
was it, like, before, like, in various trips, before?
Yeah, so on the Life 360 app, it was shown going to the exact street that she was speeding on and took the same route 7 times before the crash, making it seem like she was practicing for a few times,
Okay.
and that the link had no addresses saved to any of their houses.
So you think it was a potentially planned thing, that she was upset that he kept trying to leave her, so she was gonna find a way that nobody else could have him?
Yeah, because it feels like one of those really toxic high school relationships of
A lot of people interviewed said it was a very toxic relationship and that she was a very angry, aggressive person.
yeah. Yeah, that she's a very volatile person. Somebody had actually made the joke saying that, so the movie Obsession that came out, where the guy broke the one wish willow, they were saying that she did that on him. There were also, jokes and rumors about how she was practicing voodoo on him.
Yep, there was that in I remember that in the documentary where they were thinking, like, she had to have cast a spell or something because he was way out of her league.
And just, like, the amount of obsession, which, like, being a teenager and understanding the hormone levels that are involved, on top of her very likely having a personality disorder, on top of the drug use, on top of the poor parenting that was involved,
Mhm.
the absence of parenting that was happening because Dominic was 20, almost 21, and
Mhm.
had his own place, so there was no supervision going on. It's just like it's a very layered thing that
Yeah.
culminated in this tragedy,
Yeah,
and
just one thing after another, horrible. Just so many bad decisions from so many people.
yeah.
You'd think that somebody somewhere would have been like, "Hey, maybe this isn't a good thing." But
Who knows how much that they were actually hiding from their parents?
that's fair
Because I
too.
know a lot of, like, older parents, like, elder millennials and older that have teenagers don't have the social media access that their children do, so there's probably a lot that they don't know that's going on, especially if they're, like, posting on TikTok and whatnot, and they're only showing 60-second clips of their lives, you know? But yeah. So overall, as a documentary, I'm gonna give it like a 6 out of 10 because I feel like there's a lot that they left out, but they did a good job forming a picture of this is a really tragic thing that happened and the loss of life. And
Mhm.
here's a lot of different facets that were involved and are going on. And then this is what's happening afterwards.
That's fair. I'll probably give it a 7 myself. Mostly because, some of the not interviewing, With certain kids, I can see parents not wanting them to be on a documentary about something like this or just not giving permission,
Sure.
or maybe wanting to like certain family members maybe trying to protect their identity, or on the flip side, like with some of like Mackenzie's sister, for example, maybe they don't want her interviewed because they're trying to hide certain things, and they were worried that that their youngest child would share the secrets they wanted to keep secret.
Mhm, mhm. That feels accurate. That feels really accurate. Well, Nate, this was an interesting one. All right, folks. Well, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to give us a like, follow, subscribe, share it with your peeps. Let us know what you thought of the crash, because that was
Absolutely.
a roller coaster for sure.
Mhm.
All right. We'll see ya.
Bye.